There are highways in America that people are warned never to drive after midnight. Roads that seem normal in daylight, but transform into something unrecognizable when darkness falls. Travelers have reported strange lights, shadowy figures, whispers from nowhere, and vehicles that appear out of thin air. Some who venture down these roads alone never come back. Tonight, you're about to hear three terrifying true encounters from highways where the night hides things you can't explain. Things that watch you, follow you, and sometimes claim you. Each story is real, each one chilling, and each one will make you think twice before driving after midnight. If you value your life or your sanity, watch closely and never underestimate the darkness that hides behind the headlights. Highway 1, Route 666. This is what happened. Mike had been driving the deserts of Arizona and New Mexico for over a decade. Route 666 had always carried a reputation. Legends whispered in trucker bars about people disappearing, strange lights hovering above the asphalt, and travelers who never returned. Mike had always laughed it off. He was a professional, experienced. Nothing could unnerve him. Until this night. It was 1:15 a.m. The world was silent. Even the wind that usually swept across the mesas seemed to have stopped. The moon was hidden behind a thick layer of clouds, leaving the highway black and endless. His headlights cut through the darkness, but beyond their beams there was nothing, just a void that stretched for miles. He adjusted his mirrors, glancing at the road behind him. He expected the familiar stretch of asphalt. Instead, the darkness seemed thicker there, like the desert itself had swallowed it whole. A shiver ran down his spine. He shook it off. "Get it together, Mike. Just another long night," he muttered. But then, far ahead, something caught the faint glow of his headlights. A flicker of white. At first, he thought it was a signpost or a plastic bag caught in the wind. But as he drew closer, he saw a figure, a woman, standing perfectly still by the roadside, pale. Her long white dress glowed faintly, almost as if she were illuminated from within. Her hair was dark, flowing in the non-existent wind, and her posture unnaturally rigid. Mike slowed. "Hello? Are you okay?" His voice cracked slightly, louder than he intended. The woman did not move, did not respond. She simply stared, her face blank, hollow-eyed, yet he could almost feel her eyes piercing into him, reading him. He slowed further, heart racing. Then, just as he reached the edge of where she stood, she vanished, gone. Just the empty desert, silent and still. Mike blinked, confused. He rubbed his eyes. Must be tired. Hallucination. But the uneasy feeling in his stomach told him it was more than that. He gripped the steering wheel, every muscle tense. The air felt heavier. The faint smell of sulfur drifted to his nose. He gagged slightly. This wasn't the desert wind. Something unnatural was here. The GPS blinked. The road behind him, on the tiny screen, disappeared, vanished. The map seemed to stretch into nothing. Mike slammed his hands on the wheel. "No, no, no, no!" The engine coughed and died. Mike's heart pumped in his chest. His pulse raced. He tried the ignition again. Nothing. He was completely alone. The silence was deafening. Then, a sound. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, circling the truck, scraping against the sand. Mike froze. His mind screamed at him to run. "Who are you? Show yourself!" His voice echoed strangely, swallowed by the desert. No reply, only the wind and the footsteps that kept circling. A soft whisper brushed past his ear. "You shouldn't be here." He spun around, nothing, just the black desert stretching endlessly. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end. He ran back to the truck, fumbling with the keys. Sweat soaked his shirt. Hands shaking, he turned the key. The engine roared to life. He floored it. Headlights cutting through the black. The road stretched ahead, but the darkness behind him seemed to ripple, like a shadow moving. Every time he glanced in the mirror, he swore he saw the woman in white, closer each time, standing on the edge of the desert, staring. Mike's mind was racing. He tried to rationalize. It's a hallucination, fatigue, desert mirages, nothing more. But the desert, it didn't feel normal. The air was thick, pressing down on him. The steering wheel felt heavy, almost alive. He drove for what felt like an eternity. Shadows flickered in the distance. Figures appeared and disappeared. Children laughing, adults staring, all pale and hollow-eyed. The whispers grew louder. "You belong to us. You belong to us. You can't leave. You are ours." Mike pressed the accelerator, desperate. The road warped before him, twisting like molten metal. The desert hills stretched unnaturally. Trees, no, rocks, bending in impossible angles. He gritted his teeth, terrified to stop, terrified to go faster. Then he noticed the truck behind him in the mirrors, another identical rig, headlights glowing red. No driver, mirroring his every movement. Mike slammed on the brakes. It did too, perfectly. He accelerated, so did it. Panic overtook him. The whispers intensified. He clutched the wheel, screaming at the sky. The woman appeared again, in the middle of the road. Hollow eyes, twisted smile. Her arms extended slowly towards him. Mike swerved violently, tires screaming against the asphalt. The heart thundered. The truck lurched, nearly flipping. The road ahead, endless. The road behind, gone. The desert, alive. Then, finally, he saw a small rusted sign. "Welcome to Tonopah. Next gas, 12 miles." Relief surged. Maybe he had escaped. Maybe it was over. But as he slowed, the asphalt ended abruptly. Nothing beyond. The desert swallowed the road like it never existed. The woman appeared again, closer this time. He slammed the gas, the truck lunging forward. She disappeared. The whispers faded slightly, replaced by an oppressive silence. Mike's breaths came in ragged gasps. He didn't dare stop. He couldn't. Not now. For another long stretch, the desert pressed in on him. Shadows flickered. Every curve of the road felt like a trap. Every flash of light in the mirrors a warning. He knew he had survived this encounter. But the woman in white, she was not gone. Not really. Would you dare drive Route 666 tonight?
The second highway, Dead Man's Highway 51, has a shocking story of a woman. Samantha's eyes felt heavy as she drove down Highway 51, returning from a grueling night shift at the hospital. The road stretched endlessly ahead, bordered by thick, dark forests. Her headlights cut through the black, but beyond their glow, the world was an abyss. Every mile she passed seemed the same as the last, monotonous, yet subtly wrong. She had heard the stories about this highway. Travelers vanishing, shadows that followed cars, whispers in the woods. But she had laughed them off. Urban legends, she told herself. Things people said to scare teenagers. Tonight, though, the highway felt alive. A sudden gust of wind rattled the car, though the air outside was still. Leaves skittered across the asphalt like insects. Samantha tightened her grip on the wheel. She told herself it was just her imagination, exhaustion playing tricks, but the chill crawling up her spine suggested otherwise. As she rounded a slight curve, something moved along the tree line. A figure, a tall woman, draped in tattered black clothing, standing motionless among the shadows. She blinked. The figure vanished. She slowed, squinting into the darkness, heart pounding. Minutes passed. The forest on either side pressed closer to the road, trees leaning as if to block her path. The headlights reflected shapes that weren't there before, twisted branches forming faces, gnawed by shadows. Samantha's pulse quickened. Then she saw it in the mirror. A car. Old, black, its headlights dim, flickering. No driver visible. It appeared out of nowhere, following her. Every time she adjusted her speed, it matched it perfectly. Every swerve, every turn mirrored her movements. Panic set in. Samantha floored the accelerator. The car remained behind her. She swerved violently. It mirrored her again. She screamed. The forest seemed to close in around her, branches scraping the roof, wind howling through invisible gaps. And then the whispers began. At first faint, almost imperceptible. Turn. Follow. Stay. Samantha's hands shook on the wheel. She tried rationalizing, fatigue, stress, dehydration, but the whispers grew louder, coming from every direction, inside the car, outside, the trees themselves. Join us. Never leave. The road belongs to us. A thick fog began rolling across the asphalt, curling around the tires, swallowing the road ahead and behind. The black car followed relentlessly, its outline barely visible through the mist. Samantha's heart raced. The forest around her seemed to twist, bending in impossible ways. The branches above formed arches that weren't there before. The shadows stretched unnaturally, reaching toward the windshield, flickering in the corner of her eye. She blinked, and the shapes were gone, but the feeling of being watched intensified. Then came movement along the roadside. Figures, crawling, twisted shapes, long limbs scraping against the pavement, pale hands reaching for her tires. Some had hollow faces, black eyes staring into her soul. One figure, a child, dragged itself along with one leg, smiling in a way that shouldn't be possible. She screamed and swerved, narrowly avoiding it. The forest seemed endless now, a labyrinth with no exit. Her mind raced, trying to find a rational explanation. But the highway was alive, and she was trapped. Hours, or minutes, she couldn't tell, passed. The black car vanished for a moment, only to reappear closer each time she glanced in the mirrors. Shadows pressed at her windows. The fog grew thicker, now entering the car itself, cold and damp, clinging to her skin. Samantha's vision blurred. Faces of past travelers flashed in the fog, twisted, frozen in terror, some clawing silently at the asphalt. Their eyes black, mouths open, silent screams. She realized they were trapped here too, part of the forest, part of the highway. A strange symbol appeared glowing faintly on the asphalt, a circle with jagged lines, pulsing red. She swerved to avoid it, but another appeared behind her. The whispers became chanting, "Join, stay, become part." Branches lashed against the roof, scraping nails against the metal. Shadows reached for her mirrors, twisting reflections into grotesque forms. Her hands shook uncontrollably. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. Then a figure appeared directly in front of the car. Tall, pale, eyes glowing faintly, cloaked in black, hair flowing like smoke, its arms extended slowly, reaching for the windshield. She braked, but the figure didn't move. She pressed the accelerator. The figure vanished, only to appear in the rearview mirror, closer now, pressing against the glass. Samantha's thoughts raced. It's a hallucination. I'm exhausted. Just keep driving. I can't stop. I can't stop. The forest seemed to breathe around her, trees swaying though the air was still. The asphalt bent and twisted like molten metal. The fog grew almost solid, pressing against the hood. Figures emerged from it, tall, thin shadows, moving alongside the car, climbing along the roof, reaching for the mirrors. The black car reappeared in the fog. Inside, she thought she saw herself, multiple versions, staring, smiling with twisted mouths. Panic consumed her. Screaming, she floored the accelerator, the tires squealing against the warped asphalt. The chanting intensified, voices overlapping, hundreds of them. Join, never leave, the road is ours. Branches smashed against the windows, the windshield fogged, revealing faint messages. You belong here. You belong. Samantha's breath came in ragged gasps. Her vision blurred. Hallucinations collided with reality. The black car, shadows, apparitions, glowing symbols, all moving in impossible ways. She realized the highway was alive. It fed on fear, on travelers, on her. Hours, or was it minutes, later, a faint light appeared through the fog. A gas station. Relief surged. She steered toward it, desperate for escape. But the asphalt ended abruptly. The light, the station, the horizon, gone. The forest had swallowed it. Figures pressed against the car now, pale hands clawing, faceless shadows leaning close. The chanting became deafening. She realized there was no escape. Highway 51 doesn't just trap cars, it traps souls. Screaming, she braced for the inevitable. When the authorities arrived the next morning, the car was found abandoned. Engine running, no footprints, no signs of struggle. Samantha was gone.
The Devil's Highway, US 191, Arizona-Mexico border. The shocking story behind it. David had been driving for hours, alone, returning from a late-night conference. He had chosen the scenic route along US 191 stretching deep into the Arizona desert. Locals called it the Devil's Highway, whispering about travelers vanishing, strange lights, and unexplained accidents. David had laughed it off. Ghost stories were for tourists and late-night bar talk. But tonight, the desert felt alive. It was past midnight. The sky was a black canvas pierced only by distant stars. A faint wind swept across the mesas, carrying the scent of dry sand and something metallic. David adjusted his mirrors, scanning the road behind him. The asphalt stretched endlessly into darkness. No other cars, no signs of life, just him and the emptiness. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. David's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the cracked asphalt and occasional desert shrubs. Then he saw it, a faint, flickering glow far ahead. At first he assumed it was a fire, maybe a distant campsite, but as he approached, he realized it was too symmetrical, too deliberate. A row of glowing orbs hovered above the asphalt, hovering in perfect formation, sweating slightly in the windless night. David slowed. His pulse quickened. What is that? As he drew closer, the lights disappeared, just vanished.
The desert behind him felt heavier. The air pressed against his car as if trying to stop him. David shivered. He muttered under his breath, "This is ridiculous. Just hallucinations." Then he saw movement in the mirrors. Another car, identical to his, appeared behind him. Headlights glowing red. No driver visible. David's stomach churned. He pressed the accelerator. The phantom car stayed perfectly aligned behind him. Every swerve, every turn mirrored instantly. Panic seized him. He slammed on the brakes. So did the phantom. He floored the gas. It accelerated in sync. The desert air seemed to thicken. David felt like he was moving underwater. Shadows stretched across the highway, forming shapes that shouldn't exist. Elongated limbs, twisted faces with hollow eyes crawling along the roadside. The whispers began, low, almost inaudible at first. "You cannot leave. You belong to us. Follow the road." David's hands shook on the wheel. He tried reasoning. It's fatigue. It's desert mirages. Just drive and it'll end. But then the road itself betrayed him. The asphalt began to warp subtly, curling and twisting unnaturally. Every mile marker he passed flickered, showing the same number twice, then again. It was as if the desert had folded back on itself. The whispers grew louder, hundreds of voices now, echoing from the mirrors, the dashboard, even inside the vents. "Follow or die." David's eyes darted around. Shadows appeared closer, emerging from the desert floor itself. Figures, pale men and women, some kneeling, some crawling, all staring, pressed forward silently. He floored the gas, tires screeching. The phantom car followed perfectly, silent except for the hum of its engine. Then came the fog, thick, rolling across the highway like a wall. Visibility dropped to nearly zero. He could barely see the asphalt under his tires. He could feel the phantom car, close, almost touching his rear bumper, though he couldn't see it through the fog. And then the chanting. Not whispers this time, full-throated, multiple voices echoing through the fog. "Join us. Never leave. Follow the road. Join us." David's mind reeled. He tried swerving to escape, but the road curved impossibly, looping back on itself. The desert hills stretched taller. The moon rose and fell unnaturally. He realized he wasn't driving anymore. He was trapped in some twisted version of the highway, controlled by an unseen force. Shadows pressed closer. Apparitions of previous travelers emerged in the fog, faces frozen in terror, eyes black, limbs twisted unnaturally. One reached out toward him, hand passing through the windshield as if the barrier didn't exist. David jerked the wheel, trying to escape. The phantom car's cab now seemed to hold multiple versions of David himself, staring silently, smiling in a way he didn't recognize. He pressed the accelerator, screaming at the night, but the road remained endless. The desert swallowed everything else. Hours or minutes passed. David's vision blurred. He saw glowing symbols on the asphalt, circles, triangles, strange sigils that pulsed with a faint red light. He realized the highway itself was alive, feeding on fear, on travelers, on him. David's breath came in ragged gasps. He knew he couldn't stop. The moment he did, the shadows would engulf him. The phantom car would crush him, or worse, the highway itself would claim him. Finally, in the distance, a faint light appeared, a gas station sign. Hope surged. He pressed the gas, heading towards it, but the asphalt ended abruptly. Nothing beyond. The gas station, the sign, the horizon, vanished. The desert had swallowed it again. David slammed on the brakes. The phantom car stopped beside him, empty cab glowing red. Shadows pressed against the windows, pale hands reaching, faces twisted in silent screams. The chanting grew deafening. David realized he would never leave. He was now a permanent part of the highway, another shadow in the fog, another apparition waiting to trap the next traveler. Hours later, the road was empty. Only David's car remained, abandoned, engine still running. No footprints, no sign of him. The highway had claimed him, as it had so many before. Would you dare drive the devil's highway alone tonight?